In this video, I'm going to show you an example of how to create a React component by converting the static HTML and CSS navigation menu to a dynamic React component. So you can see the demo here. It's a pretty basic navigation menu with a button here that is supposed to toggle the form here. So if I inspect the element, you can see that it has a classified, but I have unchecked its display to none. This is the neutral state of the menu, but if I click on this, I want this to be shown. So we will see how to solve this issue while creating the React component as well. So as you can see, you can find this demo on this URL. If you want the static HTML and CSS, you can find this on this repository, and if you're looking for the completed project, you can find this on this repository. So the links of all of these repositories will be in the description box below, so you can tinker around with the code as you please. So without further ado, let's get into the code. I'm going to start by generating the React application. Create React app. Again, if you don't have it installed already, you're obviously going to need Node.js. And once you have Node.js installed, you can just go ahead and do npm install -g create React app. Once you have that set up, you can just go ahead and do create React app and then the name of the app. In this case, I'm going to name it React menu component. Okay, that's done, so I can open it up in the text editor. Okay, so I've opened this folder in Visual Studio Code. So now at this point, I'm going to open up the console and just do yarn start, and that will start a local development server on your machine on port 3000, and you can just go ahead and develop on this server. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to start by cleaning up some unnecessary clutter. If I open up the app.js file, we are importing the logo and we are importing the app.css file. We don't really need any of those, so I'm going to get rid of them, and then I'm going to delete them from the project root. Delete. Okay, so we don't need this test file. We're not tackling testing in this tutorial, so I'm just gonna remove that as well. Okay, now we have app.js, index.css, and index.js. In the app.js, we can see that okay, logo is not defined. I'm just going to get rid of all of this, and you can see that this is the front of your application. So if I say hello world here, this is going to be rendered onto the page. Alright, so this is where your HTML goes, and index.css is where your CSS goes. So we can basically copy our HTML and CSS into these files. Alright, let's open up index.html and copy everything inside the body tag and paste it. I'm going to get rid of this wrapping app element, and we have this. Let's re-indent this. Okay, so we have a couple of errors here, and the reason for this is that JSX is looking for a closing tag of this input element. So if I put a slash there, that'll fix that annoying error. Alright, so we have our HTML, but there is still another problem. All of these classes say class, and class is not really a JSX attribute or a JSX prop. What you need here is to say class name, and the reason for this is if JSX allows class to be written like this, then it clashes with this class up here, because class is a JavaScript reserved keyword, so for that purpose you sort of have to say class name. Okay, I'm going to update these references everywhere. Okay, I'm done. So what else? Oh, I missed this. There you go. So hopefully there isn't any class reference. Okay, so now we need to copy the CSS, and for that we can just open the style.css file and copy all of its content into the index.css file right here. Save this, and now if we take a look at it in browser, you can see that it's not working, and the reason is it says logo.png is not found, so we sort of need those images as well. So what I'm gonna do is download those images, save that, and we also need the search icon. Save image as search icon.png. Once these are done, we can just import them on the top. Import logo from logo.png and the search icon from search-icon.png. Okay, once those are loaded, we can just manually set the style to have the background image of logo. And for the search icon, I can just go ahead and set it on to the button. Style background image URL search icon. Okay, I'm just going to change this background image to camel case as well. Alright, so now I'm going to go to the index.css page and remove the references here. Save that, and if you refresh the page, you can see that now everything is working. So at this point we have all of the HTML and CSS in place, but there's no reason to use React for this. What we need is to make a component to be able to say thing like menu, or let's just say epic menu, actually I'm just going to use camel case here, epic menu or whatever it's called, because for camel case this first letter is not usually capitalized, but in this case it is, so I don't know what it's called, but I'm going to use this convention because that's what React uses. Well, anyway, so now we should be able to do something like links equal and then provide in the links, and be able to do logo equal and then be able to provide logo, and so on. So this is what we're looking for. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is first of all create a new component. I'm going to do import and then say epic menu from, and I'm just gonna put it in the source directory here. you can create another folder named components and then put it there, but anyways, we're just gonna have one component, so I don't really care about that. So I'm gonna save that and create a new file called epicmenu.js. Import React component from React. Then I'm going to create a class called epicMenu, which will extend from component, and then I'm just going to export this class and then create a render method which will return. Let's just go ahead and copy all of this CSS, all of this HTML to this component. Let's just go ahead and re-indent this a little bit. So now I can just go ahead and do epic menu and save that. So, but logo and search icon are not defined, so I can just copy those and paste them up here for now. We'll change this later on in the video. So save this and refresh the page, and it looks exactly the same, but this time it is being loaded from React instead. You can see from here. So now at this point, all you need is to not hardcode these links here. So for that, what we will do is create an array here of links, and each one is going to be an object that has a label that says, for instance, home, and a link that, well, links to something. I don't know, home, or you could just go ahead and do something like google.com or anything like that. So, or something like this. Then about, that links to the about page. And then portfolio, finally contact us. Okay, let's save this, and now I'm going to pass this as a prop. This is called a prop, so I'm passing an array to the epic menu. So now the epic menu can pick it up using I don't know, if you just go ahead and console this dot props dot links, you can save that. And okay, link is not defined because it's called links. Okay, save, and if you open up the console, you can see that we are getting these links as an array, which is what we expect. So now all we need to do is loop over this array and generate this list dynamically. Okay, so I'm going to copy all of these links, and instead of just having all of those links like that, I'm going to say links markup. This is a variable which I now need to define. So instead of just console logging this, I'm going to map over these and then return the markup for a single link. Okay, so let's just save this, and for each of these links, this should be link.label, and the link will go to link dot, what do we call it, link dot link. Let's just remove this active class for now. We'll deal with it later in the video. So save this, and now if you take a look at the browser, links markup is not defined because we didn't define it. Links markup, and save this. Now you can see all of these links are being generated dynamically using this array. So you see we have isolated the data layer from the markup layer. So now a person who is using this component doesn't need to know how to write markup for the list items and links and what classes to use or anything like that. All he really needs to do is just provide its data to the component and then just be done with it. And you can, just replicate it and have the same thing over and over again without having to worry about copying all of that markup. Anyway, let's just continue. What do we need next? We need to make this logo dynamic, so anyone should be able to update this logos. So for that, let's just go ahead and accept logo as a prop. Say logo. So instead of hard coding this logo here, we can just get this from the props and then just copy this back here. Save that, and that should do the trick. Okay, so now logo is being loaded dynamically from this prop. Good. Now let's see how we can make the search form work. Remember that the search form just has a class called hide, which basically sets its display to none. So it's here, but its display is set to none, so you don't get to see it. What I'm going to do is remove this hide class from here. So now it's just here. So what we need to have is be able to click on this and toggle this form on and off. So how can we tackle that? For that, we are going to use state. So I'm going to define a constructor on my epic menu class, and then call super, which will basically call the constructor of the component. Now I'm just going to set this dot state to have a property called show form. I'm going to initially set it to false. Now I'm going to go ahead and define the search form variable and set it equals to conditionally to show form. So I'm gonna copy this, just going to say search form. So instead of just simply having that search form markup in the component, I'm going to set it to a variable and then change this variable's value depending on the state. So if the state is show form, if show form is set to false, then this will fail and the search form is going to be set equal to an empty string, and so consequently this here will be blank. But if the show form is true, then the value of the show form will be set to this markup or this JSX element, whatever you want to call it, and then here the form will be rendered. So now we need to toggle the show form. How can we tackle that? For that we will use events. So on the button here, I'm going to define an on click handler. I'm going to set it equal to this dot handle click bind this, which means whenever this button is clicked, a method on the class called handleClick will be run. But instead of handleClick, let's just call it showForm to be more explicit. Okay, showForm, and I'm just going to reset the state to have the value of showForm equals to the opposite of what it currently is. Alright, so now if you save this, showForm is not defined, line 21. Okay, so this should be this.state.showForm. Okay, so now if we click on this, okay, so we have an error. Okay, I'll tackle this in a second. But if you click on the button here, the showForm is set to true, which means this markup, the search form, is set to this markup. But if I click it again, it's set to false, and the search form then again equals an empty string. Whatever the value of the search form is being rendered here. So, well, this works. So about this error here, each child in an array or iterator should have a unique key prop, which means in here each one should have a unique key prop. So I'm just going to set this equals to the index. For the first child it will be 0, for the next child it will be 1, and so on. So if we refer when the page is reloaded, the error is gone. Alright, so we pretty much have everything covered except for the active state of the link. We need to be able to provide something like this, active to true, and have it appear here. Well, let's take a look. In here, when we loop over the links, let's just put the anchor tag on its new line. So there are two types of links, one which is an active link and the other is the regular plain old link. So let's define the link markup inside of this anonymous function as a conditional variable, so to speak. So let's say link markup is equals to this link but only if link.active, well, if it's active, let's just apply the menu link active class. If it's not, then let's just go ahead and put the plain old menu here. Okay, and instead of rendering that, let's just render the link markup. Save that, and this should do the trick. So let's say you want about to be active instead of home, so you go to the app page, and instead of saying active to true here, let's just put active true here, and that will set the about page to active. And we can also, if we're generating this from somewhere else dynamically, we could have this false, or that will also work. Anyways, let's just go back to what it was, save this. Alright, so pretty much everything is done. Okay, there's one other thing that I would like to do. Notice that how index.css is completely separated from this component here. Instead of that, let's just go ahead and create another file called epicmenu.css and copy all of the CSS except for the global stylings of, I don't know, box sizing and HTML and body and container and center, hide. Let's just copy everything that is specific to the menu and move it over to epic menu CSS. So we can just go ahead and close this, and instead of, now all of the styling would be gone, but what we'll do is, instead of having the consumer of this component import the styles, we will import it ourselves in this epic menu file. So we will just go ahead and import epic menu.css, and that should module not found epic menu, so we need to specify it's in this particular directory. So now the consumer of the component doesn't need to know where to pull in the styles. So now you can put it in their own folder and publish this on I don't know, GitHub or something, and have other people use your epic menu component without having to worry about how to manage their HTML or CSS. They just need to provide this links array and the logo without having to worry about the specifics of the structure of the component. Okay, so here are some bonus features that I would like you to implement. First of all, when I click on this search icon, notice that how I have to also click on the input box. I want you to research on that. The key term here is to search for refs, and then implement how you can automatically focus on this input whenever this button is clicked. Also, notice whenever I say hello or something, it automatically submits the form without, well, having the JavaScript to manage it. So what you need to do, or a good solution for this, would be to be able to pass something like on search prop and be able to provide some method here, this dot handle search or something, and then be able to define a method and handle it here. So instead of, well, instead of just submitting the form onto the server. Let me know in the comments below how you implement that. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can get more videos like this in the future. I'll see you next time.